Hello, mathematicians. Today we're going to be learning about whole numbers, more specifically how to divide multi-digit whole numbers with no remainders. And in this video, we'll be focusing on word problems. Our first word problem is, a library just received 1,224 new books. The librarian wants to place the books equally on 8 shelves. How many books will go on each shelf? So we need to take the 1,224 new books as our dividend because we're going to take these books and split it among each shelf. And the keywords that let us know that we're dividing are that the librarian wants to place the books equally on these 8 shelves, and we need to figure out how many books will go on each shelf. And we have a total of 8 shelves, so that is going to be our divisor. That means we'll take 1,224 and divide that by 8. And basically what we're doing is we're taking the 1,224 new books and dividing it by the 8 shelves to figure out the number of new books that's going to go on each shelf. So let's go ahead and divide. We have 1,224 divided by 8. We're going to use long division so that it's a little easier. And so we ask ourselves, how many times does 8 go into that first digit, which is 1? And 8 does not go into 1. So we ask ourselves, how many times does 8 go into those first 2 digits, which is 12? And 8 goes into 12 one time because 8 times 1 is equal to 8. And that's as close as we could get to 12 without passing it. So we're going to go ahead and subtract. 12 minus 8 is equal to 4. Next, we're going to bring down the next digit, which is 2. And then we ask ourselves, how many times does 8 go into 42? 8 goes into 42 5 times because 8 times 5 is equal to 40, and that's as close as we could get without going over 42. So now we're going to go ahead and subtract. 42 minus 40 is equal to 2. Now we're going to go ahead and bring down that last digit, which is 4. Now we ask ourselves, how many times does 8 go into 24? 8 goes into 24 3 times because 8 times 3 is equal to 24. So now we're going to go ahead and subtract. 24 minus 24 is 0, so we do not have a remainder. That means that 1,224 divided by 8 is equal to 153. So we took 1,224 new books, divided it by 8 shelves, and we ended up with 153 new books on each shelf. Here we have our next word problem. A toy factory produced 36,684 toy cars. They packed them into 12 large crates with the same number of cars in each. How many cars are in each crate? So we know that we have 36,684 toy cars in total. And we're going to take these cars and put them in 12 crates. We know that we're going to divide because we're going to have the same number of cars in each crate, and we need to figure out how much each crate is going to have. So we're splitting up the toy cars among these 12 large crates. So we're going to take 36,684 and divide that by 12. Essentially what we're doing is we're taking the 36,684 toy cars, dividing it by the 12 large crates to figure out the number of cars that are going to be in each crate. So let's go ahead and divide. So we're going to use long division. And in order to begin, we're going to ask ourselves, how many times does 12 go into that first digit, which is 3? And 12 does not go into 3. So then we're going to look at the next digit. And we're going to ask ourselves, how many times does 12 go into 36? Well, 12 goes into 36 3 times because 12 times 3 is exactly 36. So we're going to go ahead and subtract. 36 minus 36 is 0. And then we have to move down this next digit. Then we ask ourselves, how many times does 12 go into 6? 12 goes into 6 0 times because 12 times 0 is equal to 0, and that's as close as we could get to 6 without going over. So 12 times 0 is 0. So 6 minus 0 is equal to 6. Now let's move down our next digit. And now we ask ourselves, how many times does 12 go into 68? 12 goes into 68 5 times because 12 times 5 is equal to 60, and that's as close as we could get without going over 68. So 68 minus 60 is equal to 8. And now we're going to bring down our next digit, which is 4. And then we ask ourselves, how many times does 12 go into 84? 12 goes into 84 7 times because 12 times 7 is equal to 84. So 84 minus 84 is equal to 0, meaning we do not have a remainder. So 36,684 divided by 12 is equal to 3,057. So essentially we took the 36,684 toy cars, divided that by the 12 large crates, and our answer was 3,057, which represents the number of cars in each crate. Here we have our last word problem. A delivery truck traveled 13,650 miles over 130 days. How many miles did it travel each day? So we know that this truck traveled 13,650 miles in total. And we know that this is a division problem because we want to figure out how much it traveled each day when it traveled 13,650 miles in 130 days. So we're going to take 13,650 and divide that by 130. That would be the total miles, which is 13,650 divided by the 130 days. And then we'll figure out the number of miles per day once we divide. Now let's go ahead and divide. We're going to make sure that 13,650 is our dividend and 130 is our divisor. So first we ask ourselves, how many times does 130 go into that first digit, which is 1? And 130 does not go into 1, so we're going to move on to the first two digits. So 130 does not go into 13, so we're going to move on to the first three digits. And 130 goes into 136 one time. That's because 130 times 1 is equal to 130, and that's as close as we could get without going over 136. Now let's go ahead and subtract. 136 minus 130 is equal to 6. Next, we're going to bring down our next digit, which is 5, and we ask ourselves, how many times does 130 go into 65? Well, it does not, so we're going to add a 0 here, and that's because 130 times 0 is equal to 0, and that's as close as we could get to 65 without going over. 65 minus 0 is equal to 65. So we're going to go ahead and bring down the next digit, which is 0. So now we ask ourselves, how many times does 130 go into 650? And it goes into it 5 times because 130 times 5 is equal to 650. So we're going to go ahead and subtract. 650 minus 650 is equal to 0, and that means we do not have a remainder. So 13,650 divided by 130 is equal to 105. So we divided 13,650 miles divided by 130 days to figure out the number of miles per day, and the number of miles per day is 105.